Hello, everyone. Well, it's been quite a week. Um, Xi Jinping has met with Vladimir Putin. They met and they made agreements behind closed doors. We don't know most of what they said. But basically, Russia will give China lots of concessions and lots of cheap crude oil. And in return, China will enable Russia to live. Yes, Russia will live to see another day under the watchful eye and rulership of Vladimir Putin, just as long as China helps them along. China's going to help them out. China's going to keep their economy afloat. China's going to supply some weapons, not a lot of weapons, just some weapons, some automated weapons and things that will help them with their technology. But they're not going to give them much more than that. They're just going to give them the bare basics, the bare bones that they essentially can get. And then China's taking Russia for a ride and getting all sorts of cheap oil and cheap goods and services, free labor, right? Russian people laboring for China. That's the way China likes it. We're still sending a steady supply of money to China. Last time I checked, everything here in America is still labeled made in China. So we're sending an awful lot of money to China. And China's, what are they doing with that? They're keeping Russia afloat and making trade agreements with Russia. Right in front of the whole world. They're not hiding anything. Because when you come from a position of strength, you don't have to hide anything. And so, what do you all think about this? Leave a comment in the comment section below what you think of Russia getting into bed with China and creating a new future. Who knows what they're going to create together. You know this is all Biden's fault, right? Biden's fault for driving China and Russia into each other's arms, and they're more strong and more resolute than ever to become allies and friends, because the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? Right? Isn't that true? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Well, this is Biden's doing. Biden has been antagonizing both China and Russia, and they make great bedfellows, don't they? And this is only one in a string of mistakes that Biden has made. Biden made a mistake when he withdrew from Afghanistan. Biden made a mistake with the baby formula shortage. Biden made a mistake with sending arms to Ukraine. And he keeps on making these gaffes, not to mention devastating our economy. Last time I checked, inflation was runaway. The inflation was runaway inflation. Everything went up 50% at the grocery store. And then to tame this unparalleled inflation, this unheard of, never before seen inflation, the Feds raised interest rates another quarter point. The Dow plunged over 500 points in one day. That was today. 500 points today. And so, what can you do? Biden is going to blame Trump for this. If he can get away with blaming somebody who's been out of office for 2.5 years already. Biden's going to blame Trump for the economy tanking, saying it was his policies post presidency that caused this runaway inflation, this tanking of our economy. He'll just blame Trump for all of his troubles and worries. Now, I want to tell you something. This is very important to me, so listen up. When we sent arms to Ukraine, we were being had. And why do I say we were being had? I'll tell you why we're being had. China. What have we done for China about China except send them all of our money? All of our money goes to China for every single thing we buy. All of our money goes to China, and China's become, as a result, one of the richest nations on earth. They're actually about to outdo the United States for wealth and power and strength. They're going to be the wealthiest nation on earth pretty soon. It's because we keep sending all of our money to China. What about the Uyghurs? Do you remember the Uyghurs that live in China? Or they did live in China before they were being systematically exterminated by China. And the Uyghurs, they don't have a choice in the matter of going through Russian or Chinese brainwashing and Chinese concentration camps where they're held prisoner and brainwashed on a daily basis. The Uyghurs have no way out and no way forward. So the Uyghurs are being persecuted. What about the Uyghurs? What did we do about the Uyghurs? Did we invade China and rescue the Uyghurs? No. We didn't invade China and rescue the Uyghurs. So that's one thing we didn't do. Okay. Another thing we didn't do, what about Syria? What about Syria and what about Yemen? What about Yemen? What did we do in Yemen? Yemen is a total disaster. There's children being murdered every day in Yemen. And there's war in Syria and Yemen. There's a civil war in Yemen. What did we do about Yemen? Did we prevent any atrocities from being committed in Yemen against children and women? Did we help when Syria was undergoing a civil war? No, we didn't. So that's two more things. So there's three things now that we didn't do. What about Ethiopia? What about Ethiopia and Sudan? There was civil war and civil unrest in Ethiopia and Sudan, and there were predatory guys strolling the street every single day, kidnapping young women and making them into brides or prostitutes for their economic benefit. And they were places where minorities were being exterminated that were disliked by the others. And what did we do in Sudan or Ethiopia? Nothing. So that's 5 places now in the world that we've done nothing. And even in our backyard, even just across the border in Mexico, there's drug lords prowling the streets, and they have almost absolute power. What do we do about those guys? Nothing. That's 6 places we've done nothing about. And then what happened in Ecuador when Ecuador became a communist country, and their economy tanked and people were rioting in the streets and they were brutally suppressed. What did we do about that? Nothing. So that's 7 places. And I could go on. There's Myanmar. There's China stepping over its boundaries in India and threatening and taking over Hong Kong and threatening Taiwan. And there's all of these things that are going on. What did the U.S. do about all of these things? What did they do for the Tibetans? What did they do for the Dalai Lama and the Tibetans? Nothing. So that's 8, 9, 10. Those are 10 places on earth where there was a cruel, brutal dictator that ruled people with impunity and we did nothing about it. So then Vladimir Putin comes along and invades Ukraine, and suddenly we're Ukraine's best bud. We're best buds with the Ukraine. We love the Ukrainians so much. We'll give them all of our weapons so that they can combat the brutal regime, the brutal dictator Vladimir Putin. What are we doing about that? Oh, we're doing everything about that. What's the difference? Gee, I wonder what the difference could be. Oh, I know. We didn't want to help the people of color, but Ukrainians are white, so that we have to help them. Isn't that the truth? And Biden pretends that he's so in love with people of color. And he even said to Kamala Harris, I love you. I love you. But when push comes to shove and there's people of color suffering anywhere in the world, oh, we can't help those people. We can't help those people. But when white people are in danger, oh, now we can help them. We can help these poor white people. Isn't that right? Isn't that right? Isn't that true, Biden? So, what are we to make of all of this? Well, I think it's embarrassing for Biden, for one thing. But for another thing, I have a very strong message to send. Okay, and that is that U.S. can no longer play policeman to the world, and we can't afford to rescue all of these people. We don't have the people. We don't have the ability. We don't have the money. We don't have the technology. We can't save the world. We can't help all these people. It's impossible for us to help all these people. And so we shouldn't be helping in Ukraine either, because we can't save the world. We can't save the world one country at a time. We can't. We just can't. And just because they're white in Ukraine doesn't mean we have to save them. Just like all these other countries that we didn't help. I gave you 10 examples. Just like all these other countries we cannot help. We also cannot help Ukraine. We can't afford it. We just have to stop sending military money and weapons to the Ukraine in unheard of sums of money. That's more than anybody in the U.S. possesses. That's more than any country on earth possesses. We're sending that kind of money to Ukraine and that kind of weaponry to Ukraine. We have to protect ourselves, our people, our borders. We can't be sending money to Ukraine. If there's one group of people that Biden is on the side of, it's the Ukrainians, but he's not on the side of Americans. Notice that. He's on the side of Ukrainians. He's forever loyal to Ukrainians. He's Ukrainian all the way, but he doesn't care about Americans and American citizens. So we should be arming ourselves. We should be arming ourselves for the coming potential Holocaust if Russia ever indeed decides to launch nuclear weapons at us. And so, prepare yourselves, folks. Get ready, because something may be coming down the pike. We don't know. We don't know when it's going to come down the pike or whether it's going to come down the pike, but it may come down the pike. We're right back to the bad old days of the Cold War. That's what you get by sticking a couple of Cold War old stumpers in charge. You take these old stumpers for Cold War, put them in charge, they bring the Cold War back. That's what happens. They bring the Cold War back, right where we began, right where we started from, Cold War. And Russia, if they didn't acquiesce and allow Putin to be a dictator for life and support him 100%, he wouldn't be in power. The Russian people gave away their power. They had a chance to be a world-class democracy, and they gave away their power to Putin. And now they're powerless. They can't stop him. They can't take him away. They can't take it back. They can't. walk back what they've done. So I just say, prepare yourselves for whatever may be down the road, because you don't know what's down the road or what's going to happen next. You just don't know. You don't know, so you have to prepare yourself. That's all you can do. So, happy spring, everyone. It was a spring equinox just a day or two ago. And so I hope you've set your clocks forward. Don't you hate having to set your clock forward? Wouldn't it be great to be on daylight savings time all year round? Wouldn't that be nice? I'm just saying. And I'll see you next time.